I need you to become the man you were always meant to be. Not next year, not tomorrow. Now.
The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video. Today I want to talk about Sir Jaime Lannister. As I'm sure most of you know by now, I have made many videos about Jaime Lannister before. In some of those videos, I have talked about Jaime Lannister getting some redemption before the story ends. I have also talked about the White Book, which is also known as the Book of Brothers. Every knight who has ever served in the Kingsguard has a page in the book, on which his deeds are written down. As we all know, Jaime Lannister has his own page in the book, only his page has a very big stain on it because as a member of the Kingsguard, Jaime killed the king he swore an oath to protect. This has haunted Jaime for a very long time. When he murdered the Mad King, he said that it felt like justice, but almost everyone else saw it as a betrayal.
When I watched the Mad King die, I remembered him laughing as your father burned. It felt like justice.
Is that what you tell yourself at night? You're a servant of justice. That you were avenging my father when you shoved your sword in Aerys Targaryen's back.
Ever since that day, Jaime has been known as the Kingslayer, a name he has grown to despise.
When you hear them whispering Kingslayer behind your back, doesn't it bother you?
Of course it bothers me.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep.
If you have seen some of my other videos about Jaime Lannister, then you would know that he often thinks about the White Book. Whether he wants to admit it or not, Jaime is bothered by the fact that people only think of him as the Kingslayer, and he might even be worried that his pages in the White Book will not contain any other good deeds. So what I want to talk about today is, what are some of the other things Jaime can do to be remembered as an honorable man? Most of you should already know that I think Jaime will most likely save a member of House Stark from getting killed, but are there any other things he can do? A little over a year ago I made a video on this topic, but not too many people had seen that video, mostly because my channel was much smaller at the time. Now that we are getting closer to the final season, more fans are starting to get excited about the return of the show, so I want to throw an idea back out there to see if some people think it's possible. As we head into the final season, I have a few different ideas for Jaime Lannister's character. One of these ideas could actually kill a few different birds with one stone, so let's get into it. At the beginning of the series, Jaime was one of the most hated characters in all of Westeros. He was blinded by his own love for his sister that drove him to do just about anything to make sure that no one came in between them. As we saw in the very first episode of the show, Jaime attempted to silence Bran Stark by killing him, just to make sure that no one found out he was sleeping with his sister. A few episodes later, Jaime even said that he would kill anyone that tried to get in their way, which was pretty obvious at the time. But over the years, Jaime has slowly started to change, and see his sister for who she truly is. Now that he has left Cersei, I don't think he would ever allow her to manipulate him again. In my opinion, I think Jaime is destined for greatness, mostly based on his character's progression over the years. As we all know, Jaime has had some setbacks, mostly due to Cersei's influence over him, but now that he's left her, I think he can do much better. By the time the show comes to an end, I think Jaime will be a completely different person, or at least I hope so. I think most people believe Jaime will be the one to kill Cersei. I also happen to believe this is a very good possibility, but I also know of a way that Jaime can do this that would make sense because it would also repeat history in a few different ways. As of right now, Jaime Lannister is most likely on his way to Winterfell to live up to his end of the agreement by helping Jon and Daenerys defeat the Night King. During the Dragon Pit scene, Cersei agreed to help them by sending all of her men north, but as we all know, Cersei lied. She isn't going to be sending them any men, and she actually hopes that the army of the dead invades the north. She hopes they can help her defeat her enemies. This made Jaime sick to his stomach because he knows they cannot defeat Dany's dragons or the army of the dead by themselves. Even though Cersei told him that she paid for 20,000 mercenaries from the Golden Company, Jaime still doesn't think this is a very good idea. With the army of the dead marching south, Jaime knows that they need to band together, but Cersei refuses to see it any other way. Either way, Jaime Lannister plans on keeping his word, so he's heading north to fight the army of the dead. But eventually all of them will have to come south again to take care of Cersei. However, if they want her off the Iron Throne, they will have to rip it from her cold dead fingers, which I believe they will do. As of right now, Euron Greyjoy is on his way to pick up the Golden Company and bring them back to King's Landing, but I think Cersei's going to be in for a big surprise when she realizes the Golden Company do not want to fight for her. Many people believe that the Golden Company will abandon Cersei to join forces with the Targaryens. If that happens, Cersei will become extremely desperate, which will most likely cause her to do something drastic to ensure that no one else can have the Iron Throne. This is when I think Jaime Lannister can come into play. The first problem Cersei faces could potentially lie with the Golden Company, like I said. The Golden Company have a reputation for never breaking a contract, but there is an example of this happening in the books. Instead of honoring their contract, they decided to sail to Westeros instead, with the character many believe to be Aegon Targaryen. Now that we know Jon Snow's real name is Aegon Targaryen, perhaps something very similar can happen again next season. If the Golden Company break their contract and pledge their allegiance to the Targaryens instead, this would obviously back Cersei into a corner. This could begin a series of events that lead Cersei into turning King's Landing into a ticking time bomb, just like the Mad King Aerys did. We already know there's wildfire underneath the city, and I happen to believe there is a hell of a lot more, but Jaime Lannister can use Cersei's desperation to his advantage. This is when Jaime can seize King's Landing just like his father did, then kill Cersei Lannister, just like he did with the Mad King. History would repeat, but this time people would definitely know that Jaime did it for the good of the city, and most importantly, the realm. During Robert's Rebellion, Tywin Lannister was the hand to the king. He was actually the hand to the king for over 20 years, but Tywin Lannister gave up that position when the Mad King made Jaime Lannister a member of the Kingsguard. As we all know, Tywin Lannister wanted Jaime to be able to carry on the family's legacy. When he was made a member of the Kingsguard, that crippled Jaime's chances of ever having a legitimate family of his own. The Mad King took those rights away, along with inheriting any lands or titles from his father. As you can imagine, this really pissed Tywin off. Tywin left King's Landing in a fury and rode back to Casterly Rock.
I'll make sure you understand that when I've won your war for you.
My father won the real war. He killed Prince Rhaegar. He took the crown while you hid under Casterly Rock.
During Robert's Rebellion, when the Mad King needed some help, Tywin stayed out of the fight until the perfect opportunity arose. When Robert Baratheon killed Rhaegar Targaryen on the Trident, this made the rest of Rhaegar's army retreat. This gave Robert and Ned a clear path to King's Landing, where they then could remove the Mad King from the Iron Throne. So when Tywin heard that Rhaegar died on the battlefield, he knew the war was about to be over. He knew the Targaryens were in a tough spot, so he gathered up his men and he headed for the gates of King's Landing. The Mad King had his pyromancer place wildfire all over the city underground. When he knew he was running out of time, he told his pyromancer to light the wildfire. That way he could destroy the city before ever having to step down as king. He wasn't about to just hand over the Iron Throne, and it seems like Cersei plans on doing the same thing. So as soon as Tywin made it to the gates of King's Landing, he was able to trick the Mad King into letting him and his men inside. Tywin made it look like he was there to help, but he had a plan of his own. That's when Tywin ordered the Mountain to kill Rhaegar's wife and children.
And beautiful, noble Rhaegar Targaryen left her for another woman. That started a war, and the war ended right here, when your father's army took the city.
Wasn't actually.
They butchered those children. My nephew and niece carved them up and wrapped them in Lannister cloaks.
When the Mad King realized what was happening, he told his pyromancer what to do, but Jaime Lannister wasn't about to allow that to happen. He killed the pyromancer before he could set off the wildfire, then he killed the Mad King. Since we know Cersei Lannister will never step down as queen, she might do something very similar, especially if the Golden Company breaks their contract. Cersei would have very few men if that happened. The Greyjoys might have a very big fleet of ships, but they are nowhere near as good as fighting on the land as they are out at sea. So, when Cersei gets backed into a corner, what does she do? With no one left by her side, she would basically have no choice, since she doesn't want to negotiate. A big battle taking place in King's Landing was already foreshadowed back in the second season when Daenerys entered the House of the Undying. Before that happens, Cersei will most likely have the city on lockdown, that way no one can enter, but this is when Jaime Lannister can do his good deed. Jaime can show back up at the gates in his Lannister uniform and have them send word to Cersei saying that he's there to help. Running out of options, Cersei would let him in. At this point, Cersei would be very desperate, and still having feelings for Jaime, she's gonna want him by her side. Once he's inside the city, he can go and kill the Pyromancer, who is Qyburn right now, then he can go kill the Mad King, who is Cersei right now. With Tywin's trick to gain access inside King's Landing, history repeats once again. Jaime Lannister can save the city and its people from total destruction. He can also fulfill the Valonqar prophecy at the same time. Then his pages in the White Book can be filled with all the good deeds.
Sir Jaime Lannister, knighted and named to the Kingsguard in his 16th year. At the sack of King's Landing, murdered his king, Aerys II. Pardoned by Robert Baratheon. Thereafter known as the Kingslayer.
It's the duty of the Lord Commander to fill those pages. And there's still room left in mine.
Maybe then people would believe the story about why he killed the Mad King. And even as I said in a previous video, Bran Stark can even go back and see what really happened that day. He would no longer be known as the Kingslayer, but instead, the true savior of King's Landing, twice. Bran Stark can tell everyone the truth about Jaime Lannister, which would be kinda crazy considering Jaime did try to kill Bran. But let me know what you think. Personally, I think this would be a really cool way to end Cersei and Jaime's story arcs, but let me know if you think something like this is possible, or do you have a different scenario of your own. Anyways, I want to thank everyone for watching today's video, I really appreciate that, and I also want to thank everyone on Patreon for supporting the channel. It truly means a lot to me. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye.